Hi, it's Dr. Ron here, and I'm actually a day late for doing one of these videos. For those of you who've been waiting with bated breath, uh, expecting me to do a video yesterday, sorry about that, but this will stay up indefinitely, so you can get as much of me and of this video as you want. Um, I want to tell you though, sometimes when I got a lot of time on my hands, which I didn't have yesterday, so I couldn't do the video, but when I got a lot of time on my hands, sometimes my mind will go to strange places or historic places. And recently, I thought about uh, a birthday party, small birthday party that I had early in our marriage. At that time, I was a graduate student, and I remember we had a small party, um, no gifts, things like that. Uh, but one couple uh, kind of took it upon themselves to decide to give me a little present. And what it was a toy uh, like handyman set or carpenter set. It had this little toolbox with a little with a toy saw and hammer and stuff like that. Now you got to understand the context of this. Again, I was a graduate student, so there was an assumption made that I wasn't very good at using tools. I do have to say, when we got married, we lived in an apartment for the first 3 years of our marriage life, and we're living in an apartment now, but for over 40 years, we lived in a home. But we were the first people who uh, lived in that particular apartment. And it was really nice, except that it lacked one thing, at least one thing, one that I remember, towel racks in the bathroom. So I have to admit, I did a magnificent job of going to a hardware store, getting the towel racks, and installing them. My guess is that now, since I know the building is still around, my guess is now, 50 years later, I bet people are using the same towel rack. I really did a good job. But again, because I was a graduate student, people thought it was a great joke to give me this toolkit on the assumption that I didn't know how to use it. Um, so, to some extent, I think subtly I got the message and didn't really overdo things, uh, from a do-it-yourself, Mr. Fix-It type standpoint. Even when we got in the home, um, the, although the house, we did have a tool bench that I used on occasion. But the fact is, uh, I kind of, from that moment on, really did not see myself uh, as being a handyman, even though I'm sure I'm quite capable of doing a lot of repairs, and did some, but not as many as I could have. Um, I thought about it in the same way that I think about technology. I grew up at a time when we didn't have computers when we went to school. Most of what I've learned has been from uh, my sons or my grandchildren, especially my grandchildren, or some coworkers. Now, I'm pretty good at it for my age, but there's a lot I don't know. And most of what I don't know, aside from the really sophisticated stuff that lots of people don't know, is stuff where it was easier to have it done for me. Um, as opposed to really taking the time to teach me. For example, I'm thinking my grandchildren play hockey and their games are live streamed. They set it up so I can, you know, click on the icon and watch their hockey games when they play. But if the computer or phone crashes, I don't know what my password is. I don't know how to access the icon the way that I would if I would have been taught. I'm sure I can be taught this, but the reality is that while I may be joking about it for myself and in a way that, been able to function okay without knowing, for the most part, without knowing the things that I don't know. Uh, the fact is that I think for a lot of people, we kind of undermine their growth and their learning ability because it's either easier for us to do it for them than to let them do it themselves, or because we're making an assumption that they're probably not as capable of it as we are. And that may be true to some extent, but it doesn't mean that they're not capable of learning it. In much the same way as uh, since I read the manual, I really know how to load the dishwasher. Uh, Not everybody knows how to load it so the dishes are pointing the right way and all. But I've kind of learned over time that if somebody else knows how to do it in their own way, the dishes will get pretty clean. The silverware will get clean. You know, so it doesn't make a whole lot of sense for me to always do it. Although now that it's my wife and I, that is one of my jobs. Uh, but it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to be the person who does it just because you know how. Because those are things that you can train other people to do if you have the patience, if you're willing to guide. So the main point that I'm trying to impart in this message is the fact that we all have opportunities to help other people grow. We have opportunities to help people maximize their potential. And sometimes for expediency, uh, we don't teach them adequately or provide the appropriate guidance. But even worse is that sometimes we make the assumption that they are incapable of learning it, uh, and so we don't really try. And that's kind of what I'm begging today is kind of begging you to consider the other person and consider the other person's growth. Uh, you can help them by treating them as if they're capable of growing. And in many cases, they will prove you to be correct. They'll justify your faith in them. Again, fairly easy message, something that's easy to try. I know sometimes we'll all be too busy to uh, take the time to run through it, and it becomes just faster and easier to do it ourselves. But it shouldn't be the go to first plan if we have time, because it not only is a matter of whether the thing gets done quickly enough, but also are we helping other people to grow? And we're certainly capable of doing that. Um, on the other hand, if anybody needs a toy toolbox, I don't think I have it anymore. So while it was a reasonable prop for introducing this video, not exactly sure why I did it because I should really, after all that, be able to give it away to somebody who, writes in and tells me that they've helped somebody learn by taking time. So you'll have to deal with the psychic rewards of doing so. And then be back next time. Looking forward to talking with you again. It's Dr. Ron Kaiser, wishing you all a good day and good week, and see you next time.